What's going on, guys? Today I'm finally back to give you guys my full review on the new HOKA Clifton 10s, which just released not too long ago. And spoiler alert, I just really didn't like them, but let's get right into it. So as always, we are going to start off with the outsole performance. And as you can see, the HOKA Clifton 10's outsole looks pretty reminiscent of most of HOKA's outsoles. They didn't really try to do anything too fancy. And honestly, it's probably one of the best parts of the shoe, which is pretty sad to say, but the traction on the Clifton 10s were pretty decent. I do like that they have a lot of etchings within their rubber outsole. I feel like it provides a little bit of extra grip, as well as the rubber compound used on the outsole is a little bit tackier, a little bit sticky. I typically ran on the road in pretty good weather conditions, as I do live in Southern California. So didn't really run in the rain too much, and the worst quote unquote conditions I ran on is probably on the road with a lot of sand from the beach, and these held up perfectly fine. I felt that I was very confident in the traction. Now, this does come with the caveat that I didn't really run in these in the rain, so keep that in mind if you live in an area with rain or snow or wet weather conditions a lot. I can't really speak too much on that. Now, as for durability, I do have 25 miles in the Clifton 10s, and the outsole looks perfectly brand new to me. I think personally for Hoka's, the cushion is way less durable than the outsoles, or at least in my experience, just because typically Hoka's use an EVA midsole and I am a heavier runner, but I'll get into that in the cushioning section. So overall, the outsole was fantastic. I thought that the durability was pretty solid. I think that these will last quite a few miles, as well as the traction, at least in the conditions that I ran in, were decently good. Didn't feel like I was gonna slip at any point while I was running in the Clifton 10s. Now, moving on to the cushion setup of the Clifton 10s, which is something that Hoka's really known for in the running shoe industry. Now, whether that's by runners or by people that usually buy these to walk around or just lounge in to have some comfy shoes to wear, that's kind of up to you. But in my experience, Hoka's typically aren't the most comfortable midsoles anymore. Maybe they were kind of the king of maximalist shoes back in the day, maybe like 5 to 10 years ago. But now I just feel like their cushion technology is a little bit dated in my opinion. So we have a full length CMEVA midsole with 42 millimeters of stack in the heel, dropping to 34 millimeters of stack in the forefoot, giving it a pretty new 8 millimeter heel to toe drop. Now, typically the Cliftons have a 5 millimeter heel to toe drop. Don't exactly know why they changed that in the Clifton 10s. Yeah, that's something that if you guys know, you can let me know in the comment section down below. But I'm just here to talk about the feel of this midsole. So as I did in my first run review, I ran fast runs in this shoe. I also tested it on a long run, and I tested it on easy recovery runs. And honestly, the only time I felt kind of comfortable in this shoe was the shorter, easier runs, kind of the recovery runs, where you're running 2 to 3 miles at recovery pace. For me, that's around 10 to 11 minutes per mile. So that was probably the only time I felt that the Clifton 10's cushion setup was bearable for me. Now, when I picked up the pace, just like my first run review, so I was running faster than, 9 or 8 minute per mile paces, I just felt that the cushion was a little bit too much, like the stack height was too high, and then the EVA just compressed way too easily, and it felt like I was losing energy while I was running in the shoe when I was at those faster paces. Now, when I was also on long runs, I did take this shoe on a 10-mile run. I couldn't make it, honestly, to 13.1 or a half marathon in the shoe, just because I felt like it was kind of the opposite of bricks. It felt like I was just sinking into the shoe way too much. Stability on the cushion setup is decent, but I just felt like the energy return, it just felt like the shoe was sucking energy out of me. And that's definitely not a feeling that you want in a running shoe. I do prefer a little bit more of a firm setup, or maybe a little bit of bounce would be perfect. But in my experience, this shoe is more on the soft side, and it just feels like it's sucking out all your energy while you're running. So not too big of a fan of this cushion setup. Now, it really depends what you're buying this shoe for. Now, I understand that the Clifton as well as the Bondis are very popular amongst people that need to walk a lot, maybe for their job, or they just want a super comfy shoe that's, in cute colors. So I totally understand if you're looking at that shoe, or you're looking at these shoes for those reasons, and I'm not gonna fault you for buying these shoes, because you can buy whatever shoes you want as long as they work for you. But if you're looking at them from a running perspective, in my experience as someone who's 6'1", 200-ish pounds, and runs, kind of like middle of the pack or maybe a little bit slower in marathons, as well as I just run around, 30 to 40 miles per week. I just personally didn't like this shoe. I thought that the cushion setup for the price point of $150, you can definitely find better options for faster runs, recovery runs, as well as long runs. So kind of in all three categories, the Clifton 10s are going to be beat for this price point. But if you are looking for a pretty casual running shoe that you can walk around in a lot and be comfortable in, and you like the styling of Hoka's, then I could see this as being an okay option. Now, last but not least, we're going to talk about the upper. Honestly, not too much to talk about. I feel like they used a pretty thick mesh. The breathability was kind of whatever. And the tongue, I felt, was kind of like the Bondi 9s. It feels a little bit cheap, the material that they use. And I did also feel a toe blister forming in my left shoe. So I don't know exactly if that's due to the fit, due to the lack of ventilation, or due to the materials used on the upper, but I do want to note that I typically don't blister in any running shoes. I've blistered in these shoes, I've blistered in the New Balance 880 V15, so take that with a grain of salt. I don't exactly know if that's the shoe or not, but heel lockdown as well as just fit in general, I felt actually they changed maybe the last size. I do feel like there's a little bit extra room in the forefoot compared to last year's model that I've only tried on. But yeah, the shoe kind of broke in pretty nicely. There is a lot of room in the forefoot, especially with myself having a wider than average foot. So I did appreciate that part. The midfoot as well as the heel lockdown, I also didn't really have too many problems with, but just the feel of the materials, it just feels a little bit less premium than you would get in certain other brands. Now, the brands that I'm thinking of, maybe Brooks, I really like their mesh uppers, even though they are also pretty thick as well and lack a little bit of ventilation. I just feel like the feel on foot just feels a touch more premium and a little bit more comfortable on your foot, whereas these materials I feel like could cause some chafing or blisters, which I personally experienced, but I'm not exactly sure if I can attribute that just to this shoe. But overall, I think that the upper is kind of a no frills upper. It does, like I said, feel a little bit on the cheaper end, but that's also coming from someone who has a lot of running shoes and I guess is a little bit nerdy when it comes to it. Nothing, I guess, too much to knock on for the upper. I think that it did its job. The fit was decent and the heel lockdown, most importantly, was good. But if you're really picky about your uppers, you want something really breathable, something really lightweight, something really flexible, and something that really conforms to your foot, this may not be the best option for you. So overall, priced at $150, the new HOKA Clifton 10s. In my opinion, especially because they raised the price from last year's model, $5 extra this year, I just don't really see the value in this shoe as a running shoe. Now, if you're looking at it from a walking perspective, or you're just looking at it as like a fun casual shoe and you're not really into running that much, or maybe you run like less than 10 miles a week, or you're really not picky with the shoes that you wear when you run, I think that these could be a good option for you. But also, like, from that point of view, you might as well get the Clifton 9s. I think they're around 115 to 120 bucks. Might as well save yourself the extra 30 bucks or whatever it is, and get last year's model, because it doesn't seem like they changed much from last year's model to this year's model. As you can tell, I'm not really heavy on recommending this shoe, especially for runners. If you're kind of my build, or you also run marathons, you run similar mileage, I just think that there are better options on the market right now, especially for the price point of $150. I think that that's a little bit expensive. Typically, daily trainers are priced around $140, which I still think is a little bit expensive, but I think $150 for this is a little bit overpriced, as well as just the technology that you get and the feel on the foot is just not there for me. I just have to be 100% honest with you guys. So that's gonna pretty much wrap up my performance review from a running perspective on the Clifton 10s. Now, I'll do like a short little 30-second, review if you're into walking in shoes. I think that this is a very comfortable walking shoe. And if, you're used to wearing like flat shoes like Vans or shoes that don't have a lot of cushion normally, obviously these are gonna feel fantastic and they're gonna feel very cushioned and very comfortable. But from a running perspective, like I said, there's just so many better options that are bouncier, more fun to run in, a little bit more stable and firm, give you a little bit of bounce back. They're not going to feel like they're sucking energy out of you, and maybe make running a little bit more fun than painful. I feel like when I ran in these shoes, I felt that my runs felt more painful than fun. So that's never a good sign. So overall, if you're looking for a walking shoe, I, again, would recommend maybe looking at last year's model if you don't care about having the latest and greatest shoes and you want to save a couple bucks, because I feel like the technology that they updated from last year's model to this year's model is literally non-existent. They just changed the stack height and maybe the heel drop. And if anything, they might have taken a step back on the materials used on the upper. I think the outsole, it's sad to say, but if that's the best part of the shoe, I don't know if it's a great running shoe. So that's gonna pretty much wrap the video. Sorry if I come off as a little bit harsh, but this is just my honest experience in the shoe and myself testing so many different types of running shoes and stuff. I have come accustomed to what I prefer. So obviously my preferences might be different than your preferences. Take this whole video with a grain of salt and try them on for yourself if you don't believe me before you leave like some hateful comments and stuff. I'm just trying to be honest with you guys. And yeah, that's gonna pretty much wrap up my video and my full review on the HOKA Clifton 10s. In my opinion, it's a pass. But, you know, if you love HOKA or if you love the design, I'm not gonna stop you from buying them. So that's gonna pretty much wrap up the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.